afternoon and welcome into the Sports Center of Connecticut as we're all set for opening day of the NCAA Division I women's hockey season. Today, it's a cross-conference battle between the St. Thomas Tommies of the WCHA as they're coming into town to take on the Newhaus Post-University Eagles. Welcome into the broadcast booth, ladies and gentlemen, joined alongside our production crew of Michael Vesey, Jarrett Michaels, and our entire postgraduate assistant staff. My name is Max Stapleton, and we're thrilled to be taking you through today's action. It's the dawn of a new season, and Post University has a bit of a new look to them this year. Well, for starters, they have a new leader behind their bench, as today we'll see the head coaching debut of Brandon Brown, a former Post University men's goaltender who graduated in 22, and he's coming into a team this year who last year had its best season of all time. The Eagles' 13 wins last season were the most in its young Division I history, but with their top 2 point getters in Julia Wysocki and Rowan Ringer leaving the team in the offseason, it'll be interesting to see if they can keep up the same level of offensive production as last year. Meanwhile, for the Tommies, it's a bit of a different story with 4 of their 5 top 5 point getters coming back from last year, returning into this team, including Madison Brown, who led St. Thomas in both goals and assists last year, and she'll certainly be a key player to stop for the Eagles if they want a shot at upsetting St. Thomas here at home today. For St. Thomas, it'll be the former Clarkson University goaltender getting the start, Julia Minotti, who had great numbers splitting starts last year at Clarkson and is expected to make somewhat of a big splash here in the WCHA this season. And meanwhile, for the Eagles, it'll be one of their captains leading them in between the pipes, Hannah Saunders, who without a doubt is expected to be one of the top goaltenders, not just in the Newhaus, but in the entire NCAA Division I landscape across the country. So we'll have starting lineups, game previews, the national anthem, and, of course, the puck drop, as it's all coming up next. You're watching Post University Women's Hockey. welcome back into the Sports Center of Connecticut as we're just about a minute away from opening day in the Division I women's hockey season. Thanks for joining us today. Join alongside our entire production crew. My name is Max Stapleton, and let's meet today's starting goaltender matchup. First, for the visitors today, it'll be the graduate transfer, Julia Minotti, in between the pipes for St. Thomas, coming over from Clarkson University. Had very good numbers over at Clarkson, despite splitting time with another starter. Had a .167 goals against average and a 91.5 save percentage, totaling a record of 10-5-1 last season over at Clarkson. Meanwhile, for the home squad, it'll be Hannah Saunders in between the net for Post University. Simply put, one of the nation's best in between there. Last year had the 12th best goals against average at .179 in the entire country. Similar numbers with her save percentage. But we're off. The puck is dropped. We're underway. And, well, actually a little bit of a false start here. I think we're having some scoreboard issues to kick us off. So we'll do it all over again. It gives me an extra opportunity to give you the starting lineups in this one. It's the top line out there for the Eagles: Tristan Curry, Maddie Noonan, and Georgia Stevens. Paired by the second line defense pairing, Karis Kell and Lily Zoner. St. Thomas wins the faceoff. They immediately try to dump it in, but Zoner herself cuts it off. Now heavy on the forecheck goes St. Thomas, trying to force a turnover, and they do, as Ilsa Lindemann slows it down and just sends it in behind the Eagles' net. Karis Kell and Lily Zoner, the starting defense pairing for Post University. Meanwhile, for St. Thomas today, it's Lindemann, Bartz, and Brown, your forward group, followed by Kaylin Mumm and Haley Maxwell. Of course, Julia Minotti is in between the pipes, as there's a quick attempt, not quite reaching the goal from St. Thomas, as they continue with possession in their offensive zone, while Maddie Noonan takes it away for the Eagles. The Eagles, of course, dressed in their home whites, St. Thomas, and their purple aways. They take it from right to left up the ice. Trying to drive it in is Kara Sajovic. Lost possession of it in her own offensive zone. Meanwhile, Post trying to come the other way, send it a long way up the ice, but not fast enough for icing, they say. So Post will transition from the defense to the forecheck. Meanwhile, St. Thomas trying to bring it up the other way. Should be interesting to see what the Eagles can do offensively today, if they can get anything started against what is proven to be a tough St. Thomas defense over the last couple of years. St. Thomas themselves keep it in the offensive zone here. Try to set it up on the far circle, but couldn't really get anything going. Post just trying to keep the puck alongside the edges here early in this game. Just about a minute and a half gone in this first period. Jody Rose taking it up for the Eagles. Now Juliana Gosdick has it, one of the two Gosdick sisters, both on the same defensive line. Decides just to dump it in, and St. Thomas going to settle with a change. Post does the same, as Selena Makavikis couldn't quite handle the pass. Goes all the way down to the other end for an icing. 18-13 left to go here in this first period. Both teams just getting a feel for each other to start it out early. Of course, St. Thomas playing in the WCHA, expected to be the favorite in this one. Despite what was a poor WCHA record, man, it's the top conference in the country for a reason. No opponents in that conference are easy. There's a quick shot. Once again, doesn't hit the net from Ella Housey. Now Eagles behind their own net, try to take it back. Here's Selena Makavikis drifting through neutral ice. Gets met by Ella Housey, a pretty physical defender. One of the top shot blockers in the entire WCHA last year. As a 2-on-1 forms, Kaylee Rice takes a shot, and the first hard attempt saved by Hannah Saunders tonight. Good 2-on-1 opportunity. Quick counterattack from St. Thomas, forcing the turnover at neutral ice and getting some offense out of it. Josie Skoogman with the puck, just sends it alongside the far boards. Goes right to an Eagle defender. That's Marley Webster. And now Ruby Mitchell sends it up farther. Turns it over, and once again, Skoogman tries the bang pass into the offensive zone. This is Engler with it now. Engler trying to set it into the slot, but the pass got deflected by Marley Webster. Now alongside these near boards, it's Mumm. Sends it around the boards again. Berger was in with it. Now Parker. Parker sending it into the slot. Couldn't quite handle it cleanly, could Engler, but she still has the puck and sends it back behind the net of Hannah Saunders once again. Marley Webster comes in to clean it up. Trying to send it out of her own defensive zone. Almost a good keep-in from the Tommies, but instead we're going to say it was a hand pass. We'll have a face-off here at neutral ice. 3 minutes gone in this first period of play. Not a whole lot of stats to talk about on either side. In fact, no stats to talk about on either side. The only thing is just two face-offs, and St. Thomas has won both of them. It's Timmery Grom and Riley Bartz in the face-off circle for their respective sides. Grom wins that face-off, although big race for the puck and a smart decision there from the freshman Lily Zoner just to dump it in. Around the boards it goes, a battle for it along the near side here, and it trickles out of the offensive zone for Post, goes all the way back towards the blue line, and a hard race for it. Kudos to Riley Bartz as she beats Lily Zoner, and now St. Thomas can set up offensive possession. Kaylee Mumm now to the far side. Shot doesn't quite reach the net. It was blocked by another St. Thomas forward, I should say. I was about to say defenseman, but it was Ilsa Lindemann who blocked her own teammate's shot, and the Tommies will have to reset in their own defensive end. Mumm sends it up the ice, but not necessarily the greatest touch pass there. Back down the ice it goes, and it'll be an icing instead with 16:11 left in this first period. Only shot on goal was one that Hannah Saunders got to save, a 2-on-1 breakaway, and I believe it was Callie Rice who tallied the first shot of the season for either of these sides. I had the opportunity to talk with Brendan Brown ahead of his debut today earlier in the week, and he was talking about how this is a very young group in Post, and they got to get acclimated early, especially on the defensive side. Well, they're getting tested early here as it's another good offensive possession for St. Thomas. Maddie Noonan takes it away and loses possession of it. St. Thomas trying to reset. So early on in this game, it's a lot of offensive pressure from the visitors so far. The Eagles still without a shot on goal, though Noonan and company trying to change it. Sends it deep into her offensive zone. Noonan racing with Gosdick, and Noonan actually wins that one. Goes back towards the blue line. Peyton Tully picks it up. First time we've mentioned her name. Instead, it goes the other way now. Drifting into her own offensive zone. This is Chloe Barine. Tries to hand it off to Gosdick, but it didn't go cleanly. Instead, Barine has it again, drifting into the slot. She takes the shot, saved by Saunders. The rebound chance once again saved, and the puck is still loose. Finally, it gets out of there. A nice job by Jody Rose to clear the puck. Now Rose herself drifting into the offensive zone. 1 against 4, tries to leave it for Tully. Tully battling with Gosdick, and Gosdick wins that one as the puck is still loose in the far corner. Back towards the blue line here. Tallulah Cameron with her first shot of her college career, and that one gets saved. It's the first test we've seen for Julia Minotti in net for St. Thomas. Minotti, of course, the graduate student, a lot of experience under her belt, was splitting time at Clarkson University last year. Expected to make a big splash here in the WCHA. Going to get a majority of starts. Somewhat surprising, Danny Strom, the goaltender who got almost all of the starts last year for St. Thomas, wasn't even dressed today. The Tommies have it in their own defensive end. Ooh, a hard check that time. Jody Rose leveling somebody into the boards. Lily Zoner tries to keep it in her offensive zone as Callie Rice getting harassed by a couple of post defenders. Finally, the Tommies just able to clear the zone. Whitney Horton tried to carry it in. She was met with a nice poke check from an Eagle defenseman, but instead it's Ella Housey. Housey in the slot, but the pass couldn't connect. Again, intended for Whitney Horton. Callie Rice near the blue line. Drifting to the far side, looking for someone in the middle, and a nice play by Hannah Saunders. She just got her stick out in front of that and interrupted the pass. Back to the blue line here, it's Housey. Housey tries the shot. McKavikis got her stick in front of it. Kares Kale tries to clear the zone, couldn't do so. A nice keep-in from St. Thomas once again. And finally, McKavikis is able to get it past the blue line. Just about 6 minutes gone in this first period of play. All St. Thomas so far as they try another one. A trickling puck and a tough save for Hannah Saunders. The puck was still loose for a second. And a wraparound try. Did Saunders get a piece of that one? Yes, she did. Boy, Hannah Saunders picking up where she left off last season. Getting tested early and making a couple of tremendous saves to keep this score at 0-0. Call it shot on goal number 4 for St. Thomas of this first period. Post still looking for their first. And a quick face-off. St. Thomas wins it again. To the far side, another shot. That one deflected wide of the netting. Kaylin Mumm with it. Back again to the far side. Shot deflects. Saunders couldn't see it. The puck loose out in front. And it goes back to Kaylin Mumm. Mumm and Maxwell, the defense pairing, just kind of circling around. This is Nora Sauer with it, out in the far corner, looking for some help. Finally finds her teammate Parker. Parker tried to shoot in the middle of the ice, and I think Saunders also got a piece of that one. Mumm once again, said her name a lot this possession. This is a long possession for St. Thomas. Post desperately needs a change, another shot, and once again, Saunders gets her shoulder on it. Finally, the Eagles end up with possession. This is Ruby Mitchell who has it, gets it out of her defensive zone, gets met by a couple of Tommies. Her teammate Tristan Curry comes in to pick it up.
Finally, the Eagles do get a change somewhat desperately, and Curry, I think, makes the smart decision to shoot a little bit farther down the ice. Into the offensive zone go the Tommies. Timmery Grom tried to box out Brown, but it didn't work well. Now a good drive here. That's Riley Bard showing off the stick handles, but couldn't get the shot on net. Boy, a lot of action so far, and here's some more. Madison Brown with help the other way. Oh, what a save by Hannah Saunders, 2-on-none, and Saunders wins the battle. Boy, we call her one of the top netminders in the country for a reason. It has been non-stop from St. Thomas early in this first period, and Hannah Saunders standing on her head. Here's another try from the Tommies. Puck is still loose, but don't think that one ever got to the net. 12 minutes to go here in this first period. Juliana Gosdick meeting up with Emma Hine, back out to Lindemann. Lindemann tries the far shot. That one stopped easily, and eventually Hannah Saunders just able to catch her breath and cover it up. Under 12 left to go in this first period. Boy, that was one of the better scenes I've seen of Hannah Saunders from last year and to this year. It was Brown, and I believe it was Ilsa Lindemann on the 2-on-1 breakaway for St. Thomas. It was a nicely set up play from Brown, but Hannah Saunders just sliding over, finding a way to get her toe on it. Saunders has a bit of a equipment malfunction over in her crease, so that's what's causing the stoppage here. Looks like it's that top line group out there for St. Thomas, Zajovic, Berger, and Boreen. Meanwhile, for the Eagles, it's their second line forward, Peyton Tully, Jody Rose, and Selena Mikavicus. St. Thomas wins the faceoff. Mikavicus does get it out of her defensive zone. St. Thomas brings it right back in. Karis Kell with the puck on her stick, sends it back behind her own net. Heavy on the forecheck go the Tommies. Jody Rose just trying to clean it up. Mikavicus trying to clear the zone, couldn't do so. Sajovic with it, hands it off to her teammate. Boreen showing off the stick handles, but eventually had it taken away from her. Once again, Post able to take it out of their defensive end, but only temporarily. Here comes the forecheck from St. Thomas. Karis Kell with the puck, matching up against Berger, but couldn't get it to leave the defensive zone. Battle for it along the blue lines. A couple of bodies go flying to the ice. Boreen hands it to Skugman. Skugman tries the lead pass back to Boreen. Now dancing alongside the blue line, able to keep it in. The one-time opportunity saved by Saunders and deflected into the netting. That time the shot coming off the stick of Ella Housey. And it remains scoreless here. Just about 11 minutes to go. Post with only one shot on goal so far in this first period. Meanwhile, call it 10 for St. Thomas University. Face-off battle also 6-1, make it 6-2 in favor of the visitors, but Riley Patfield has it on her stick now and exits the defensive zone. Just dump and chase game here for Post University. See if Kai Hyatt, one of the true freshmen on this team, can do anything with it. Back towards the blue line, here it goes. This is Cameron. Trickling puck towards the net, looking for a deflection, but it goes wide of the netting that time around, and the Eagles just send it back around the boards. Drifting in the near corner, St. Thomas has it on their stick, but this time it's Post heavy on the forecheck. Able to keep it in, but only temporarily. Out of the zone they go. Callie Rice trying to get around Emma Hine, but couldn't do so. Hine, the lone transfer on this Eagles squad. Had a pretty good career over at Lindenwood University. 11 assists last year for Emma Hine. Showing off the defensive capabilities there on that last possession. Post trying to set up a breakout here, but poor job by Tallulah Cameron. The turnover. Ilsa Lindemann with a beautiful move, but she couldn't finish off the chance as the post says no. And then Hannah Saunders gets the save, but it trickles in for a goal. Riley Bartz gets the scoring started this season for St. Thomas as it's 1-0 early. Bartz, the junior, out of Fargo, North Dakota, getting the first goal of the season here in non-conference play for St. Thomas. For Bartz last year, she had 8 goals, was third on the team with 17 points, so already getting her first this year. We'll see how the official scoring comes in, but felt like it was only a matter of time before St. Thomas could get the scoring started. And that turned out to be true. Hannah Saunders only was able to stand on her head for so long before one finally went in there. It was a beautiful move from Ilsa Lindemann to really get that party started for the Tommies. And Lindemann just hit the post on her backhanded attempt, but Bart staying with the play, was able to get a good shot on. Went off the shoulder of Saunders and eventually deflected on in. So 9:43 to go. 1-0 St. Thomas lead as they win their defensive zone faceoff. Now try to break out of their own zone. Long pass up the ice, doesn't quite connect. Karis Kale takes it instead, and she tries a long pass to Maddie Noonan. Noonan couldn't cross the blue line. Puck goes way up in the air, settles down on a St. Thomas stick. Now Janessa Gosdick will settle it down. Hands it off to her sister, Juliana. And Karis Kale intercepts the pass for post. Tries to carry into the offensive zone, but is met by Gosdick. Janessa, that is. And now a long trickling shot on goal. Easy save from Minotti that time, but good job by post just to test her out once or twice. In a period that has been dominated so far by St. Thomas, but there's still 9 minutes left. Trying to turn it around are the Eagles. Ruby Mitchell tried to intercept the pass and neutralize. Couldn't do so. Here comes Bartz once again. It deflects off the shoulder of Saunders. Poor rebound control there, but didn't come up to cost the Eagles as Zoner takes over. Pass that time attempted for Selena Mikavicus. She couldn't quite handle it, and the Tommies go the other way with it now. Long cross-ice pass for Sauer. It's going to be offsides if she touches it, so the Eagles will take over in their own defensive zone. Mitchell's pass intended for Tully couldn't go. St. Thomas content just to dump and chase a little bit here. The race between Engler and Rose, and a tie up alongside the near boards. Looks like St. Thomas is going to hang on to possession here. Couple of Eagles, 3 Tommies in there alongside the near boards. 8:06 to go in this first period. Been a clean game so far. No penalties on either side. No real chance of any yet. As finally the puck does get cleared behind the net, a hand to Saunders. Marley Webster takes over. Tries to send it up the ice. Pass gets intercepted by Skoogman. And once again, the Tommies reset. Parker couldn't quite get it into the offensive end of things. Anna Bernaire, first time we've said her name, was fighting for it alongside the near boards for the Eagles. But once again, Eagles just having a hard time getting set up with possession. Last year we saw the Eagles be so good on the forecheck, but in order to get onto the forecheck, well, you have to have the puck in the offensive zone, and there just hasn't been many opportunities for that early on in this game. Karasajevic able to intercept that pass, now with a head of steam into the offensive zone with some help. The pass to her teammate. Oh, another beautiful save from Saunders as she's able to cover it up. Boy, Saunders with a couple of sliding saves here in this first period is able to keep it at 1-0. Looked like Saunders was a little bit slow to get up that time around as well, but seems to be shaking it off just fine so far. And that leads us to our first media timeout here in Shelton. It's all St. Thomas early on as they're up in this one, 1-0. Back in at the Sports Center of Connecticut, 7:10 to go in this first period of play. In a first period that has been dominated by the visitors, St. Thomas. And can't say it wasn't expected necessarily, but still, like to see Post put up a bit more of a fight. But meanwhile, St. Thomas wins the faceoff. Chloe Barine just lost the handle on it. Gets taken away by Tim Marie Grom, and out come the Eagles with it. And when you're talking about the WCHA, you're just talking about a different level of women's hockey, typically speaking, as Ella Berger drifts off sides there. We'll have a face-off at neutral ice. Talking about the Wisconsins, Minnesota, Duluths, Ohio States of the world, some of the powerhouse women's hockey programs. St. Thomas has to face them multiple times every single year. The Tommies only had one road win the entire year last year. Looking to capitalize on a 1-0 lead and get there first today, though a lot of game left to go here, obviously. There's a tie-up on the face-off. The Eagles came away with it that time around, but immediately tried to shoot it up the ice. St. Thomas gains possession. Long cross-ice pass intended for Callie Rice. Didn't quite reach the stick. No icing, though, as they say it deflected off of Emma Hine. Now Maddie Noonan hands it off to Georgia Stevens. Stevens, the true freshman, playing on the top line for the Eagles, getting her first career start today. Got to keep an eye on her. Her and Kai Hyatt are two of the big freshman names to look out for the Eagles in New-Ha play this season. Meanwhile, Whitney Horton stick handles into the offensive end of things. Now hands it off to her teammate, that's Gosdick, back into the slot, but Callie Rice just couldn't get her stick on it cleanly. And once again, the Eagles take over. Tallulah Cameron. Off to Maddie Noonan. Noonan passed the red line and decides just to bank pass it into the offensive zone. Smart play there as the Eagles needed a change. They get a fresh 5 out there. Meanwhile, St. Thomas tries to break out. Just over 5 minutes to go left in this first period. Ilsa Lindenman couldn't quite handle in the offensive zone. A few bodies go flying. McKavicus got hit hard that time. Peyton Tully takes it instead. Bank passes it into the offensive zone for Karis Kale. Kale gets tied up into that far corner. A good defensive play by Ella Housey, one of the star defenders for St. Thomas, as a 2-on-1 starts forming. Bartz with Brown. Bartz takes the shot. That one goes off the blocker of Hannah Saunders. Another tremendous save from her. Out of the defensive zone it goes, but only temporarily as Lindemann brings it back in. Tries to dance around a couple of Eagles. Couldn't do so. Shoots one off the side of the net. Boy, the Eagles looking to just cover it up there. I don't think that was the right play. Instead, it stays in their defensive zone. Back out of the blue line. Ella Housey tries a long shot, deflects, and Saunders makes the save. The rebound chance. And I think that one just went wide of the net. Saunders back to her feet. McKavicus with the puck. But once again, Ella Housey, a tremendous keep-in. And St. Thomas retains possession. Back behind the net to Saunders it goes. Karis Kale trying to send it out. Goes off the far boards where Madison Brown takes over. Brown for Parker. The Parker got deflected off the stick of Lily Zoner. A good defensive play from the freshman for post. And finally, the Eagles get it out of their zone and can get a fresh 5 out there. Kaylin Mumm with the puck and a head of steam. Tries to get into neutral ice, but a beautiful play. That's Kai Hyatt with the interception. Tries to send it into the slot, but the pass doesn't go. Eagles unable to keep it in. They'll reset. Marley Webster just sends it a bit farther up the ice. Now Ruby Mitchell with it. Hands it off to Hyatt, who finds Peterson. But ultimately, Post once again just having a hard time getting set up in their offensive zone. Neutralized play. Puck goes into the bench of St. Thomas, and we have a stoppage. Still, the lone shot on goal in the period for Post University. They had their second best chance of the period only a few moments ago, but wasn't able to connect. Meanwhile, it's 15 for St. Thomas here in this first. They win another faceoff. Chloe Barine has it on her stick, getting harassed. That's Anna Bernaire harassing her. Marley Webster. Now Ruby Mitchell tries to gain possession. Karis Sajovic leads a hard hit, and Mitchell gets some revenge on the hard hit there. No whistle blown, play on. Long shot from the blue line. Kaylin Mumm, it hits a couple of Eagles defenders and trickles out of the offensive zone for St. Thomas. Boy, physical play that time between Sajovic and Mitchell. Sajovic a forward, Mitchell one of the experienced defenders on this Post squad, and I think it's safe to say that Mitchell probably got the best of her there. Berger hands it off to Barine. Barine past the slot, but it gets taken away by Lily Zoner. Boy, Zoner has impressed defensively a couple of times early in this first period as Post tries to set up one of their first big tries, but instead another good defensive play from St. Thomas. Minotti covers it up, and we have a stoppage and offensive faceoff coming up for Post. Faceoffs was a category for the Eagles last year that they did pretty well in as a team. You can count on it, especially late in the season down the stretch in New-Ha play. But so far today, St. Thomas just dominating in that factor, 9-4. tie-up on this face-up. Boy, Noonan goes down to the ground hard. I believe it's Riley Bartz in the face-off circle there as well for St. Thomas. It did go St. Thomas's way, but the Eagles do get possession and try to reset, maybe break out here. Callie Peterson has it. Bad pass there, gets intercepted. Tegan Kuhlekamp with a head of steam into the offensive zone, dancing around, shooting, and a save. That time from Hannah Saunders. Boy, another close save, and Saunders just got her skate on it. Noonan takes over after the tie-up, gives it to Kale, trying to get out of the defensive zone, but how many times have we said in this first period? St. Thomas doing a tremendous job of keeping in. That's going to be a penalty. That's Tegan Kuhlekamp hitting Callie Peterson hard into the boards. Eagles with the extra skater on as Hannah Saunders races to the bench. Post still has possession here, and we're ready for our first power play of the game with just over 2 minutes to go in this first period, and we'll see if this can switch some momentum. Boy, Callie Peterson seems to be all right, skating well, but she got decked hard into the boards, and that's going to be a roughing penalty, either that or a body checking penalty on Tallulah Cameron. Something that's pretty rare for St. Thomas University. They do not take a lot of penalties whatsoever. You're talking about a WCHA conference that has the top teams in the country. When we take a look at my notes here, in terms of penalties, they actually ranked first in the WCHA. They only had 198 penalty minutes and only 89 times shorthanded last year. So not a whole lot of opportunities expected on the power play for Post. We'll see how they do on their first, as immediately St. Thomas able to win the faceoff, clear it down the ice. It's Jody Rose, Karis Kale. Taking a look at some of the numbers here. Ruby Mitchell's out there, as well as Georgia Stevens. And Jet Devlin as well, the primary power play group for the Eagles. They send it in but couldn't quite set up possession. Emma Hine switches in on the defensive pairing. And St. Thomas doing a good job just clearing it down. Already 40 seconds off this power play try, and St. Thomas has almost had as much possession as the Eagles. Riley Bartz with it on her stick. Gets intercepted. Jody Rose couldn't handle it cleanly. Now has to kind of reset things in her own defensive end here. A minute 24 in the period, a minute 10 left to go on the woman advantage for Post. Mitchell tries a bank pass, almost too many women on the ice. Good job that time by Jody Rose not to touch it, otherwise the Post would have gotten penalized and it would have been a 4-on-4. Tough play there. Chloe Barine takes it over in her own offensive zone, even shorthanded as we've drifted to under a minute to go on the penalty to Tegan Kuhlekamp. Emma Hine takes it for the Eagles, ready to reset things. Drifting through neutral ice, gives it to Noonan. Noonan just sends it around the boards, looking for some help on the far side. It's Tristan Curry chasing after it. Now Ella Berger does a really good job just sending it all the way down the ice, and St. Thomas gets another clearance. Don't believe Post has gotten a shot on goal on this woman advantage try so far. Just about 30 seconds to go in the period. Webster hands it over to the far side. This is Maddie Noonan once again. Into the offensive zone she goes, but the pass gets intercepted. Now into the far corner. McKiss racing after it. St. Thomas trying to clear it out. Couldn't do so on the first try as Hine gets a shot attempt on. And that one, I believe, got saved by Minotti. 12 seconds to go in the period. Back to even strength between these two squads, but Post with their first real set-up offensive possession here in the period. And with 4 seconds to go, St. Thomas just going to clear it down the ice. And that's going to do it here in this first period of play in the 2025 to 2026 Division I women's hockey season. All St. Thomas early on in this one as they lead 1-0. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 15 minutes with period number 2. Here's you're watching Post University women's hockey. Welcome back into the Sports Center of Connecticut here in Shelton, as we're just about a minute away from starting this middle period of play in this cross-conference matchup between the St. Thomas Tommies of the WCHA and your post-university Eagles of the Newha. Well, what a first period it was for the visitors. St. Thomas outshooting the Eagles by a 16-1 margin. That's shots on goal, by the way. Total shots would be 24-3. Face-offs, 10-5 in favor of St. Thomas in that first period. Meanwhile, Post did block 5 shots. They only shot the puck 3 times, so St. Thomas didn't really get a whole lot of opportunities for blocks in that period. And, of course, Post did get the lone power play opportunity. They did not get a shot on goal during that stretch. So we'll see what adjustments have been made in between periods and the head coaching debut of interim head coach Brandon Brown. As it looks like St. Thomas is ready, the Eagles are ready. It's Riley Bartz in the face-off circle, as well as Maddie Noonan. And Bartz wins that one, and we're underway here in the middle period of play. It's St. Thomas out to a 1-0 lead as they take the puck behind their own net and try to set up possession. But it's Tristan Curry getting in the way of that for Post as she takes a tough angled shot on goal, but already tallied in the SOG department for the Eagles and off to a better start than they were in the first period. Sometimes also on opening day, those first period jitters can just be a lot. So we'll see if the Eagles have settled down somewhat here today as they ice the puck and immediately goes back down towards the other side. St. Thomas electing to go with an early line change, bringing on a fresh 5 out there. Of course, for the Eagles, can't quite do that on the icing. So once again, Maddie Noonan in the face-off circle for Post University. Can't quite see the number. It's Ella Berger, it looks like, for St. Thomas, and Berger wins that one. As Barine tries to set up possession, a bouncing puck, and the shot just deflects wide of the net. Battle for it behind the net. Karis Kell's there. The wraparound try and the rebound chance. They score! Kara Sajovic makes it 2-0 St. Thomas early in the second period. For Kara Sajovic, she had 6 goals last year, 8 assists, already picks up her first point of this season. Wasn't on the ice for the last goal for St. Thomas, so already only, 40-something seconds into this second period of play, and St. Thomas doubles their lead. Trying to keep the pressure on is Chloe Barina. She makes a nice move into the offensive zone. Another wraparound try, and Hannah Saunders says no to that attempt. A rebound chance, deflects off a couple of bodies, don't believe it ever reached the net, and the Eagles break out of their own defensive zone. Peyton Tully tries the bank pass to herself, but instead Julia Minotti is going to intercept it behind her own net. Eagles trying to keep it in their own offensive zone. St. Thomas trying to do the opposite, and the tie-up is alongside the far boards. 18:51 left to go in this second period, and already on the first shot on goal of the period for St. Thomas, they get a goal. Chloe Barine getting harassed by a couple of Eagles, speeding into the offensive zone. The hand is raised. We're going to have a tripping penalty, and the first power play opportunity of the game for St. Thomas. We'll see who goes to the box. I actually believe it's going to be a hooking penalty, technically. And it's going to be the freshman Tallulah Cameron getting penalized in her first collegiate start. So first time we'll get to see the power play opportunity for St. Thomas out there. Taking a look at the notes, last year on the power play, they finished at 15.5%. That's bottom of the WCHA, so something to improve on this year as they're trying to get a good start on that early. Couple of shots, but nothing on goal. Deflect off a couple of bodies, and the Eagles do a good job of clearing it out. Meanwhile, for Post, this was an area they really excelled in last year, finishing second in the Newha with a penalty kill of just over 86%. So we'll see if they can continue that. Obviously, a lot of new faces. And right away, Riley Bartz, who already has a goal to her name so far today, sending it into the offensive zone. Now to the near side. This is Mum. Back over for Housey in the one-time attempt, and they score! Riley Bartz picks up her second of the game, and already it's 3-0 St. Thomas. Looked like the shot came off the stick of Riley Bartz, but might actually be Madison Brown instead off a deflection in front of the net. But either way, it was clean past Hannah Saunders, and it's a 3-0 lead for the visitors, St. Thomas, who are really pouring it on here in this second period of play. Boy, it looks like Post is almost getting a bit more competitive in this second period, at least having a bit more possession time. But St. Thomas finding the back of the net 2 times in the first couple of minutes here in this second period. And we'll see who that goal officially gets scored to. It's either going to be Riley Bartz or Madison Brown. If it's Bartz, it's her second of the game. If it's Brown, it's her first of the season. Just a beautiful one-time setup on the power play, and also in an area that St. Thomas was looking to improve on this year after finishing last in the WCHA last year. They're already 1-for-1 this season with the woman advantage. Kai Hyatt, true freshman for Post, one of the new faces, one of the highly decorated true freshmen for Post, decides to just do a smart play there, shoot it on net, force the stoppage as Minotti covers it up. So quickly, 3-0 St. Thomas here in this second period. Still waiting for the official score to come in on both of those goals. Fresh 5 out there for Post University, led by Tim Marie Grom in the face-off circle, but she loses it to Maya Engler. St. Thomas able to get it out of the defensive zone, and a quick 2-on-1 forming. Callie Peterson trying to race to it, but it's Engler instead, and Saunders makes the save. I believe the net got dislodged there, and it did, so we're going to have a stoppage of play. Saunders trying to keep this game close at 3-0, made a beautiful stop. Callie Peterson found herself on an island all alone. It was a 3-on-1 for St. Thomas, but Saunders found a way. Faceoff comes back to neutral ice. Still trying to get that net set up behind Hannah Saunders. And now it seems like everybody's ready to go. Once again, Maya Engler wins the faceoff against Tim Marie Grom. And into the offensive zone go the Tommies. Back towards the blue line. This is Callie Rice with it. Ooh, a couple of good moves past a few Eagle defenders, but couldn't get the shot on net. I believe it was Marley Webster with the block that time. Maybe it was Callie Peterson. And Post breakout attempt goes back into the bench. So we'll have another stoppage and another neutral ice faceoff. Talked about it a little bit earlier, but my interview with Coach Brown earlier this week, he really talked about a few of the freshmen, Kai Hyatt, Alexia Tutino, who's not dressed tonight, but few others, as well as Emma Hine, who's a transfer, not a freshman over, and how important these new faces are going to be to this program. Seeing them make a few good defensive plays tonight, especially Lily Zoner and Kai Hyatt have stood out to me so far among the new ones. Meanwhile, St. Thomas sends it into their offensive end of things. Around the boards it goes. Marley Webster just looking to clear it out of there, and they do. Almost kept in by Skoogman. Instead, she'll have to reset things. Housey sends it farther up the ice. And a smart play by Kuhlenkamp that time. Send it deeper into the offensive zone to allow her teammates to chase after it. Along the near side here, it's Skoogman trying to get around a couple of Eagles defensemen. Couldn't do so, but Barine picks it up. Barine battling with Noonan. And still along these near boards, St. Thomas somehow able to keep possession, but we'll see for how long. Good keeping that time from Skoogman alongside the near boards. She's battling for it. Noonan having a very physical shift here alongside these boards, and just Post unable to get it past that blue line. They try to switch sides, go to the other way. And once again, it's Chloe Barine finding a way into the action for St. Thomas. Barine sends it into the slot, but that time Sajovic couldn't get her stick on it. It was a nice interception. That's Tristan Curry who was able to break that one up, but here come the Tommies once again. Janessa Gosdick into the offensive end. Tried the drop pass there for Berger, but Berger couldn't handle it cleanly. Back to Sajovic behind the net. Off to Barine, back towards the blue line here. Gosdick to our sister, Janessa. Janessa's shot deflects wide to the left of Hannah Saunders, but Juliana's able to keep it in. Now in that far corner, Marley Webster almost was able to clear it, instead got bodied, and Hannah Saunders just had to get her glove over it to allow Post to catch their breath. Boy, a long defensive shift, and smartly here, all five going to get off the ice for the Eagles. Offensive zone faceoff win for St. Thomas. Almost a shot on goal, but instead it's one of those new faces we mentioned, Emma Hine, who gets the interception, sends it all the way down the ice. And how about the wheels on Peyton Tully? Boy, I thought Tully was going to win that race. Instead, the referees rule it an icing. Goes Janessa Gosdick's way. Same five will have to stay out there for post and heading back into their defensive zone. (3-0) St. Thomas lead with 14:53 left to go here in the second period of play. Face off in the offensive zone of the Tommies, trying to set up a quick pass into the slot, but the puck gets deflected. I believe that was Emma Hine once again getting her stick on it. 2 Eagles and 3 Tommies alongside these near boards. Puck ends up going back behind the net of Hannah Saunders. Eagles trying to get it out of there, but Madison Brown keeping it in for St. Thomas, only temporarily, as finally Ruby Mitchell is able to clear it past the blue line, and then St. Thomas gets whistled down for offsides with 14:29 left to go in this frame. We're trying to get these stats updated, but haven't been able to get anything going since the start of the second period. So going without our live stat sheet for right now. That's why we haven't been able to give you these shots on goals numbers or face-off totals or something like that here in the second period so far. Either way, 2 goals already for St. Thomas. And boy, a big trip in the middle of the ice. Riley Patfield went down hard, and the refs are going to call it. Looks like it's going to be the second power play opportunity of the day for Post University. So we'll see who goes to the bench, or into the box, for St. Thomas. Going to be Sadie Lindsay, one of the veteran forward groupings for St. Thomas here. And Post 0 for 1 on the power play so far today. Didn't get a shot off on that first power play opportunity back in the first period. We'll see if they can change it around here. Maybe get an opportunity to switch some momentum. Really has felt like they've been out of this game. St. Thomas just with all of the puck possession so far. St. Thomas does win the face-off and immediately clear it back down the ice. Emma Hine to grab it. 14:02 left to go in this middle period. 1:45 on the woman advantage for Post. Mikavicus picks up the missed pass there. Going to have a tough time getting into the offensive zone, going up against 3 Tommies, and smart play there, just chip it into the far corner as Tristan Curry chases after it. Curry couldn't handle it though, lost the race, and St. Thomas able to clear it all the way down once again as Saunders touches up behind her own net. Off to Maddie Noonan on the far side, and Noonan's pass intended for Curry instead gets intercepted by Madison Brown as they were entering the blue line. Now long pass around the boards, and Riley Bartz couldn't handle it cleanly. Instead, it's going to go off the stick of Karis Kell. About halfway through this woman advantage so far for the Eagles. No shots on goal. Boy, a good interception that time from Bartz. Was almost able to set up a play, but instead it was Marley Webster with her head on a swivel. And now Georgia Stevens into the offensive zone she goes. Stevens, with a good couple of plays there, was able to keep possession alive for Post, but Karis Kell couldn't keep it in the zone as Riley Bartz takes it out. Bartz gives it to Brown. Brown trying to get around Ruby Mitchell, but Mitchell lays the shoulder down, and here come the Eagles. Still 37 seconds left on the power play opportunity. Jody Rose sends it in deep. Gosdick racing after it, so is Georgia Stevens, but Gosdick wins that one, sends it into the netting. We'll have a stoppage with 26 seconds left on the woman advantage for Post. .12:39 left to go in this second period of play. It's Jody Rose in there, as well as Kira Parker. And Jody Rose wins a crucial faceoff for the Eagles. Let's see if they can set something up. Karis Kell tries the shot, but it gets deflected off of Jody Rose's stick and off to the side of the net. St. Thomas trying to set up an offensive possession of their own, and that's going to be a slashing penalty on Ruby Mitchell. As Kira Parker is able to keep possession alive for St. Thomas, we're going to have 4-on-4 and then a St. Thomas power play coming up soon. Another good hit that time from Jody Rose. The Eagles touch up. We do have a whistle. And it'll be 4-on-4 for 1 second, technically, before the Tommies will have their second power play opportunity of the game. They're already 1 for 1 on their power play chances so far. And once again, an area where they finished last year in the WCHA. Well, they're already perfect in that category today. Eagles are sending out Riley Patfield, Kai Hyatt, Marley Webster, It looks like Lily Zoner as well as their 4 grouping. Meanwhile, it's Kira Parker, Josie Scoogan, Haley Maxwell, and Nora Sauer as the 4 for St. Thomas. Another whistle here before the face-off, and Kira Parker's going to get kicked out of the face-off circle. So it's going to be Nora Sauer in there instead. And Kai Hyatt, the freshman, wins that face-off. She went 1 for 1 in the first period. See if Brandon Brown gives her some more opportunities here in the second. Officially now, St. Thomas on the woman advantage here for just about 2 minutes. Maxwell alongside the near boards. Now over to the far end, back to the blue line. This is Skoogman. Back to Maxwell on the near side to Skoogman once again. Skoogman looking for a lane, finds Maxwell. Down low. Housey looking for somebody but couldn't quite get it on goal. That's a nice play by Lily Zoner to get her stick in front of the shot attempt there. 1:25 left to go on the woman advantage for the Tommies. Still with offensive possession here. Cross-eyes pass back to Maxwell as she takes an attempt, and that deflects up into the netting. Post gets a much-needed stoppage with 1:16 to go on the penalty kill. Again, this was an area in which Post really excelled last year, although I'm sure if you asked Pat Bingham from last season and, of course, Brandon Brown from this season, he would say that, well, you got to take less penalties, of course. But Post finished second in the Newha in terms of their penalty kill percentage at just over 86%. See if they can improve from what they did the first time around. Fresh legs out there for both sides. It's Juliana Gosdick at the blue line for St. Thomas. Gives it to her sister. Back to Juliana. Back to Janessa, and the one-time opportunity gets handled by Hannah Saunders and frozen once again. So a quick possession that time for the second power play grouping for St. Thomas. And it's the sisters, Juliana and Janessa Gosdick, playing a little bit of tic-tac-toe, but Saunders was able to glove it down that time. St. Thomas with another offensive zone faceoff win, a category they have really excelled in today. Now Barine, who's made a lot of plays today, hands it off to her teammate and a quick shot. I believe Saunders got a piece of that. That shot off the stick of Kara Sajovic. The puck trickles out of the defensive zone of Post, and that's going to be good for the Eagles as St. Thomas will have to reset. Ella Berger finds Gosdick. That's Juliana. Now Chloe Barine into the offensive zone. Barine looking for a lane to pass it to, just set up possession. Back to Juliana. Now into the low slot there. Berger with a great shot. Boy, but Hannah Saunders just made that look easy. Almost a casual glove save that time. She just says, I'll take that, thank you very much. And we have another frozen puck here with 28 seconds left to go on the St. Thomas power play. Berger back in the faceoff circle, going off against Noonan. And the tie up for it, Berger gets it. Gosdick gives it to her sister. And another good shot. That one gets blocked before it hits Saunders. Now to the near side here. This is Berger back up top. Juliana Gosdick to Janessa. And Janessa's shot gets blocked once again. Boy, what a block that time. Trying to get a look at the number. That was Lily Zoner impressing yet again as a true freshman. Really showing up defensively here. She made a crucial sliding block that time on Janessa Gosdick. Power play coming to a close here as Barine gets one final shot off. Saunders makes the save, and we're back to even strength. Once again, a good shot, but a long shot and an easy save for Hannah Saunders as the puck gets frozen. And we're back here at 5v5 with just over 10 minutes left to go in this second period. Boy, Saunders yet again being tested in this middle period of play. Both sides getting a couple of fresh line pairings out there. Maya Engler wins that faceoff for St. Thomas. Back towards the low slot, into the setter for Engler once again, and Saunders once again just gloves it down and freezes it. Gets a couple of love taps from her teammates. And we're officially halfway through this game, exactly 10 minutes left in the second period. Faceoff comes to the right of Hannah Saunders. Good tie-up, and Tristan Curry wins that one for Post. See if they can get it out of their defensive zone here. The forecheck for St. Thomas has been unbelievable today. Kaylin Mumm past the red line, tries to bank pass it, but instead shoots it into one of her teammates' face on the bench. We have another neutralized faceoff. That's actually going to bring us to our media timeout. 9:44 left to go in this middle period of play. All St. Thomas as they score 2 to lead 3-0. Got a neutralized face-off coming up as we're just over halfway through this first game of the 2025-26 Division I season. Thanks so much for joining us here as you're watching Post University Women's Hockey, and St. Thomas with a good opportunity, but a good defensive stick that time. Trying to get a look at the number. It was Jet Devlin who got in the way of that one. There's a shot on goal for Riley Bartz, but once again, Hannah Saunders with great positioning just snags it out of the air and makes the easy glove save. Face-off coming to the left of Hannah Saunders. Josie Skoogman at the blue line. She takes the shot, deflects into the padding of Saunders. That one's going to count as another save for her. Somebody's stick goes flying behind her net. Another attempt that time. It was Ella Housey, but it went off the side of the net. And just out of the defensive zone it goes to the Eagles. Meanwhile, Skoogman, she resets things and starts it back up for the Tommies. Ella Housey along the far side. Looked like she just lost the handle on it. And the Eagles try to take advantage, was trying to clear it out, but Emma Hine just shot it into that St. Thomas bench. So we'll have another face-off here in the Tommies' offensive zone. Once again, our stat page is still down currently, so don't really have much of an update for you in terms of the shots on goal or who scored the goals and stuff like that, but still trying to get those official numbers for you, and apologies for the inconvenience. Ooh, a quick attempt there off the face-off from St. Thomas, and a couple of extracurricular activities here between Nora Sauer and Karis Kale. A couple of pushing and shoving in front of Hannah Saunders' net, and those two are matched up with each other on the outside of the face-off circle. Once again, St. Thomas with another offensive zone face-off win. They set up possession. The Eagles just trying to get anything set up here in the second period. Down to 8:42 to go. Puck trickles around the boards, and Anna Bernaire ends up with it on her stick. One of the freshmen who we haven't said a whole lot tonight, but there's a good lead pass to Timmery Grom, and the Eagles have it in their offensive end of things. Grom tries to lead it around the boards. Bernaire trying to pick it up for her. Paige Piper in there as well, but it ends up going on the stick of Nora Sauer as she breaks out of her defensive zone. Sauer looking for a lane, just tries to drop pass it back to nobody, and Bernaire takes over instead. An opportunity here for the Eagles, one-on-one. Bernaire with nobody helping her out. Going up against Juliana Gosdick, and Gosdick with a couple of shoves down to the ice, ends up just lifting her. Meanwhile, the Eagles still with possession as they're still pushing and shoving. And a whistle finally does get blown. There's got to be some type of penalty on Gosdick coming up, I would think. We'll see what the official call is. Did look like a hook was called, and it is going to be on St. Thomas. And it is Juliana Gosdick going to the box for St. Thomas. So the third power play attempt of the game for Post University. They're 0 for 2 so far. I don't believe they have a shot on goal. It's Tristan Curry, Maddie Noonan, Emma Hine, Selena McCavikis, and Marley Webster, the five out there for the Eagles. St. Thomas wins the faceoff, but couldn't quite clear their own defensive zone. Post trying to take over, and they do. Back out to Hine here at the blue line. To the near side, this is Noonan. Back to Hine. Hine fires away, but that shot gets blocked. Good job by Chloe Barine getting in the way of it. And once again, another block shot from a St. Thomas defender. That time it was Haley Maxwell on the follow-up. Post still with possession. Emma Hine once again. Over to Marley Webster as her one-timer. Couldn't quite handle it. Almost played with a high stick. Ruled that it wasn't. Instead, it trickles all the way down the ice. A race for the puck here. And Emma Hine does win it for the Eagles, but good battle there between Hine and Sadie Lindsay. A little under halfway through the woman advantage, and that's going to be an icing for Post University. 7:03 left to go in this middle period of play. 3-0, St. Thomas out in front. Been a bit more competitive of a second period, and it's the second power play opportunity of this period for Post. Be interesting to see this year. St. Thomas wins the faceoff. A couple of fans raise their hands in the stands, and so do the referees. They have a hooking penalty called. And if I'm not mistaken here, this is going to be on Maddie Noonan. Making it a 4-on-4. Actually, I am mistaken. It's going to go on Selena Mikavakis. Either way, though, it negates the post power play opportunity. Instead, we'll go 4-on-4 for 1 minute and 6 seconds. Then it'll be a 54-second power play for the Tommies. They've already scored once today on the power play. They're 1 for 2 in that category. It's Berger, Housey, Janessa Gosdick, and Sajovic out there for St. Thomas. They win the face-off, and it was Housey who tried that shot. Back out to Gosdick. Now Housey once again. She takes the tough angle, but I believe it was Ruby Mitchell who got in the way of that one. Behind the net they go, as Berger gets harassed by Karis Kale behind the net. Good job by the true veteran for Post University, forcing the turnover in her own defensive end. Now the Eagles just looking to clear, and they do. 35 seconds left while this is still even strength at 4-on-4 before it turns into a St. Thomas power play. Berger into the offensive zone, looking for a lane, takes the shot, saved by Saunders, the rebound chance, they score! Make it 4-0, St. Thomas. And this time it's Ella Housey getting her first goal of the season. Ella Housey, a defenseman, one of the best shot blockers in the country, getting her first points of the season this year. It makes it 4-0 in favor of the visitors here. Only had 1 goal last season, although to be fair, 11 points including 10 assists, but already matching her total from last year here in Game 1 of this 2025-26 campaign. And the junior from Forest Lake, Minnesota, puts St. Thomas up by 4. So Post technically does have a woman advantage now. All right, excuse me, it'll still be 4-on-4 for a little bit, as the Eagles look to clear out of their defensive zone. Riley Bartz with it on her stick, dancing around, looking for the wraparound try, still has it on her stick, and finally takes the shot. I believe Lindemann got in the way of that, but she followed it up, and Hannah Saunders makes the save and covers it down. Just under 6 minutes left to go in this middle period of play. 4-0 in favor of the visitors. Looks like Hannah Saunders is having a bit of an equipment malfunction over at the netting, and we had the referees are meeting with the scorers over on the far side. So both Saunders and the referees trying to sort out a few things. Selena Mikavakis gets back into the penalty box. Not sure what the stoppage was about. They needed discussing for a few more minutes. But it looks like we're all set up and ready to go. It's actually now St. Thomas on the woman advantage, just on the leftover time. Kaylin Munn tries the shot off the face-off, but couldn't get it there. It was blocked instead by Georgia Stevens. And the puck trickles out of the defensive zone of Post. St. Thomas will try to reset with 45 seconds left to go on their woman advantage. Back into the offensive zone, back into the far corner. Riley Bartz just tries to send it to her teammate, but a good job there by an Eagles defenseman. Once again, I think it was Peyton Tully who cleared that one down. And the clock tricks under 30 seconds to go on the woman advantage. Bartz with a head of steam. Tries to get across the blue line, getting handled by Jet Devlin. And Devlin with a couple of great defensive plays forces the turnover, going one against the world here. And a smart decision there just to shoot the puck in deep, get some more time off this power play. Devlin again, heavy on the forecheck, making a few defensive plays, and Timmery Grom has it on her stick now. Grom just sends it into the corner, and we're officially back at even strength as Mikavakis comes out of the box. And Tallulah Cameron will reset things for Post. Eagles just send it in deep, no icing, as they say that an Eagle got her stick on it. So Maddie Noonan picks it up in that far corner, getting harassed by Kaylin Munn. Curry tries the backhanded shot. It gets blocked while Karis Kell tries an attempt, and it gets deflected wide. St. Thomas picks up the rebound, but the pass gets intercepted, and Curry tries a shot. That one gets blocked by Janessa Gosdick. Into the far corner here, and finally we're seeing that post forecheck come to life late here in the second period. 2 Tommies, 2 Eagles on that far corner. It's Tristan Curry for Post University. She comes away with it. Tries a tough angled shot. Easy save from Minotti that time. One of her only here in the second period. Kira Parker gets tripped up. No penalty called, and the Eagles take over. Peyton Tully crosses the blue line. Tries a tough angled shot. It gets blocked by Janessa Gosdick once again. Tristan Curry has it on her stick. Now back at the blue line. Smart play, just sending it in deep, and Minotti just covers it up. Some pushing and shoving after the whistle here between Janessa Gosdick and Peyton Tully. Tully, the true freshman, getting into it with a veteran in Gosdick. But nothing called. Both women go back towards their bench. Faceoff comes to the left of Minotti in the post-offensive zone, and the Eagles win it. Peterson has it, tries a tough angled shot. The rebound chance, believe it got deflected wide. Bank pass towards the blue line for Emma Hine. Back at the near boards, Riley Patfield gets bodied down to the ice hard. And Sadie Lindsay clears the zone for St. Thomas, off to Parker. Parker looking for a lane, takes the shot, gets saved by Hannah Saunders. The puck is still loose. Finally, the whistle gets blown. Boy, the puck still looked to be loose, and a lot of pushing and shoving after the whistle this time around. Boy, these two teams getting into it. A little chippy between the Tommies and the Eagles here in the second period. Eagles get a fresh five out there. Tommies do the same. Face off to the right of Hannah Saunders. St. Thomas wins it. Boy, tic-tac-toe go the Tommies, and Saunders with her head on a swivel able to make that save. A pure positioning save that time as she was aware of the woman in the slot and was able to just stop it with her chest. Once again, both sides changing lines here. 3:07 left to go in this middle period of play. A game that has been mostly dominated by St. Thomas, but you've seen some life out of the Eagles in the last couple of minutes or so. Jet Devlin and Maya Engler in the face-off circle. Boy, Engler wins again. Don't know the exact numbers, obviously, with our stat sheets and stuff, but Engler has had a very, very good day in the face-off circle, and excited to see what I can find in between periods. Good stick from Jet Devlin just to touch that puck out of the zone. Meanwhile, Josie Skoogman resets things, officially under 3 minutes to go here in the second. Skoogman dances past a couple of Eagles defenders, but couldn't get past Marley Webster. Instead, the puck trickles off the stick of Jet Devlin. Sends it up for Timmery Grom, who finds Kai Hyatt. Hyatt, with some speed around Skoogman, tries the shot, blocked by Ella Housey, doing what she does best. One of the best in the WCHA last year in terms of block shots. And Housey herself ends up clearing the zone. Boy, Rice racing after it. That's Callie Rice, as well as Tegan Kuhlekamp. Kuhlekamp almost ended up with possession. Ruby Mitchell takes it away. Getting harassed by a couple of Tommies on the forecheck, and the Eagles do get it out of their defensive zone. Maddie Noonan past the blue line. Hands it off for Timmery Grom, but boy, if Grom could handle that cleanly, it would have been a wide open lane to shoot at. Instead, St. Thomas comes the other way, under 2 minutes left. Both these teams play again tomorrow at noon local time, 11 a.m. Central if you're watching over in the great state of hockey. It should be a fun game, too, between these two teams. See if Post can garner any momentum here late in the second period or in the third, heading into tomorrow's matchup. This looks like they're starting to get a bit more competitive in this game, a bit more offensive puck possession, but Georgia Stevens lost it trying to enter the zone, and a 2-on-1 forming here for St. Thomas. Berger finds Boreen. Her shot on goal, scores! Boy, a beautiful one-time setup from Berger to Boreen, and St. Thomas makes it 5-0. Tough day for Hannah Saunders in net, but nothing she could do about that one. A beautiful one-time setup. We've seen her make those sliding stops earlier in this game, but St. Thomas just continuing to pour it on, now going up by 5 here in this second period. Chloe Boreen gets the official goal on that one. But the Eagles take over here at neutral ice. Peyton Tully decides just to shoot and dip deep, as now we have under a minute here in this second period. Boy, 4 goals in the period for St. Thomas. Remember, they had 16 shots on goal in period one, but it was Hannah Saunders who was able to get the most of them. However, in the second period, just a different story as the offensive setup has really been there for St. Thomas. They're trying to continue to pour it on here. Mum sends it around the boards. Gives it off for Riley Bartz. And Maxwell tries to take a tough shot, but that one got blocked. I believe Jody Rose got her body in front of it. Over to Madison Brown. And Brown's pass gets intercepted by Peyton Tully. Tully in her own defensive end, as there's 20 seconds left to go in this second period. Brown back in her offensive zone into the slot, finds a cross-ice pass, another goal! This time it's Ilsa Lindemann, and it's 6-0 St. Thomas. Boy, the second one-time opportunity and one-time goal in as many minutes for the visitors here, and St. Thomas just pouring it on with their fifth of the second period. For Lindemann, only one goal last year and 4 points, already has her first this season, as well as many of her teammates. And right now, Post just trying to get out of the second, under 10 seconds left to go. Both teams still being pretty physical here at neutral ice. Devlin trying to lay the check down, so is Karis Kale. Tie up here, and that's going to end the period. What a period it was for St. Thomas and the visitors. They score 5 in the second frame and ultimately lead this one by a 6-0 score. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back for the third and final period of play in just about 15 minutes as you are watching Post University Women's Hockey. Welcome back into the Sports Center of Connecticut as we're ready for our final period of play here between the Post University Eagles and the St. Thomas University Tommies. Boy, what a second period that was for St. Thomas, tallying 5 goals in the period to lead by a score of 6-0. And what a period it was. Let's get you that scoring list. I'm trying to find the scoring for St. Thomas in the period. I just had it up, but either way, here we go. It was Sajovic, Bartz, House, Barine, and Lindemann tallying the 5 different goals for St. Thomas University, including Riley Bartz, who got her second goal of the game. And overall, Riley Bartz is having just a tremendous game. 2 goals and assists, tallying 3 points. Also, Ella Berger with 3 assists for 3 points through 2 periods today for St. Thomas. Meanwhile, Post just trying to garner some momentum heading into tomorrow's Game 2 with these 2 very teams. As we're underway here in period number 3, St. Thomas wins the faceoff, a stat they have dominated in today. Immediately send it all the way down the ice. It'll be an icing, and it goes back towards the Post offensive zone. So in that second period, our stat program was down, but it's back up and running now. St. Thomas outshot Post University 16-3 in the frame, including winning in the faceoff department 29-4. Again, that's only in the second period. To have 32 faceoffs or 33 faceoffs in a period is absurd in and of itself, let alone 29-4. Meanwhile, the Eagles win that offensive zone faceoff, but immediately send it around the boards, and Riley Bartz, who has those 3 points that we mentioned earlier, picks it up and sends it out of her own defensive end. Karis Kale grabs it on her stick. Maddie Noonan is met by Haley Maxwell, and St. Thomas takes over at neutral ice. Into their offensive zone they go. Bartz once again has it on her stick, turns on a dime, tries the shot, but a nice heads-up play by Georgia Stevens to deflect it into the boards. Karis Kale, Pope checks it away, and now Post takes over. Tries a cross-ice pass, gets deflected, but stays in the Eagles' possession, only temporarily as Stevens loses it. And now Ilsa Lindemann chases after it. Kale bodies her into the boards. Noonan and Brown battle on the far end there. St. Thomas wins it, again, only temporarily, but they actually keep it in their offensive zone. Juliana Gosdick takes the shot, but it gets deflected up and over the netting of Saunders. Good stick by Zoner. Here's a beautiful one-time setup, but Berger gets denied by Saunders. Gosdick tries it again. That time it gets blocked by Georgia Stevens. Still with possession are the Tommies on a long shift in their offensive zone. For Juliana Gosdick, back towards the center of the ice, but Peyton Tully couldn't intercept it. Berger tries to send it in deep, and finally, well, not finally, it's actually kept in by St. Thomas, but the Eagles do have possession, and now finally Zoner's able to get it out of there. Boy, Post trying to get some fresh legs on the ice. They do so temporarily. Lily Zoner does stay on, however. Ends up near the puck here, and finally she is able to get off. St. Thomas trying to transition from defense into offense. Into the offensive zone, Sajovic just stick-handled her way out of it. And finds her way back in, going one against the world, and eventually Emma Hine does poke check it away from her. But a good battle for it, and now alongside the near boards, Mikavakis unable to get it out of there. Now Tallulah Cameron is. Gives it off for Hyatt. Kai Hyatt into the offensive end, tries the shot, goes right into the body of Julia Minotti as she covers it up with 17:44 left to go here in this third period. Boy, Minotti not tested too many times tonight, but had a great career over at Clarkson University and looking to pitch a shutout in her first career game for St. Thomas today. Defensive zone win for St. Thomas, but a nice job by Emma Hine just to try to keep it in. Don't think she technically did. Post was able to touch up. Now they apply the forecheck. Around the boards it goes. Sadie Lindsay. Off to Whitney Horton. Now over to the far side Rice. Back to Lindsay. Boy, beautiful puck movement there from St. Thomas to enter the offensive zone cleanly. Now for the blue line, Ella Housey. To Skoogman. Skoogman tries the shot. Easily saved that time by Hannah Saunders. Back behind her net. Battle for it between an Eagle and Whitney Horton. Couldn't quite see the number. It was Jet Devlin who ended up taking the puck away. But she loses it right in front of the netting of Saunders, and luckily for her, Cameron was right there to pick it up for her teammate. The true freshman takes it into the offensive zone, tries to find a pass into the slot, but it gets deflected back into that near corner. But Riley Bartz takes over. That's Josie Skoogman, was able to evade an Eagle. Now finds a cross-ice pass for Horton. Horton going 1 against 3, just tips it forward. Actually, it's not Hannah Saunders in net anymore, I should say. Must have been a change in between periods. It's Devin Amundsen in net for the Eagles. Maya Engler takes it at the blue line, back to the far end. Now Kaylin Mumm. Back over to the far end, and a shot almost gets deflected, but actually went deflected wide. That eventually got off the stick of Maya Engler. Ruby Mitchell sends it in deep behind the net of Julia Minotti. Minotti gives a body check to an Eagle, too, on her way back into the crease, and St. Thomas breaks out. Boy, beautiful move that time from Nora Sauer. She heads towards the net, tries to chip it over Amundsen, but it didn't work out that time as she chipped it over the net. Engler picks up the rebound, gives it back to Sauer, who tries to pass into the slot. Good defensive play by Noonan to block that pass attempt, but the wraparound try into the slot it goes, and that one gets saved by Amundsen. Shot that time came off the stick of Kira Parker. Mumm to the far side. That's Haley Maxwell who sends it in deep. Couple of Tommies trying to pick it up in a battle for it right behind the net of Devin Amundsen with 15 minutes left to go here in this final period, and St. Thomas leading 6-0. Parker still with possession alongside the near boards. Again, beautiful puck movement, but just couldn't finish the final pass, could St. Thomas. However, they still have possession. Mumm into the slot, deflected wide off the stick of Engler. One-timer attempt, but again, not the cleanest attempt. I think Haley Maxwell was the one who tried the shot, and Post just clears it all the way down the ice. That's going to be an icing with 15:02 left. Boy, once again, St. Thomas just proving some of their dominance here in the third period, not letting the foot off the gas pedal whatsoever. Shots on goal, 2-1 in favor of the Tommies here in the third, but 8-1 shot total in this period. And once again, 3-0, the face-off total favoring St. Thomas. Make it 4-0 after that latest win from Brown. Big shot on goal. Devin Amundsen makes the save, controls the rebound opportunity as it goes behind her. Meanwhile, St. Thomas able to retain possession or at least keep the puck in the offensive zone. Brown with it, looking for a lane to pass to, dances around and finds Juliana Gosdick. She takes the shot. That one gobbled up by Amundsen at the netting as she freezes ice. 14:42 left to go here in this third. So this game obviously started by Hannah Saunders. It was 1-0 after the first period, but then 5 goals scored in the second. We were talking up here in the booth in between periods. Not one of them you can blame Hannah Saunders for. Most of them were one-time setups or rebound opportunities that just weren't really controlled or handled well by Post. But either way, Devin Amundsen has looked strong so far here in her first game of this season. Got to imagine she'll serve as the primary backup for Post all year long. Also a new freshman netminder on the team in Alex Young for Post University. Jet Devlin taking the puck through neutral ice, but gets handled that time. That was Juliana Gosdick laying the Thunder down, and she takes it into the offensive zone. Into the slot it goes. That actually got saved by Amundsen. She tries another setup pass, but it gets deflected by Callie Peterson, and Peterson takes it into neutral ice. Past the blue line she goes, but gets handled by a couple of St. Thomas Tommies. And the puck eventually leaves the Eagles' offensive zone, but they reset things, looking to set up possession. Bad pass that time, couldn't quite get on the stick of Callie Peterson. And Barine takes over. Boy, we have said Chloe Barine's name a whole lot tonight. She has been everywhere and continues to have possession here in the offensive zone. Looking for a lane to pass to, dancing around, now at the far slide, takes the shot, puck is loose out in front, still loose, Barine with the wraparound try, but it doesn't end up on the net, goes into the far boards. St. Thomas still with possession, the deflection shot, and that one kicked away by Amundsen. Barine looks like she got high stick there as she's slow, making her way towards the bench for St. Thomas. Going to be 5-on-4 for a little bit here. Meanwhile, St. Thomas still with possession, even down a woman as Housey slips down on the ice. And now Lily Zoner comes out for Post University. Zoner trying with a breakout. She takes the shot and it just goes wide of the net. Had a little bit of help on the far side, but it was really 2-on-3. And it was good job by St. Thomas hustling back as Housey makes a beautiful move and she shoots it just wide of the net. Karis Kale collects the rebound. In this third period, despite being 6-0, it has been a fast pace of play between these two teams. Maya Engler sending it into the slot. Pass couldn't quite connect. No shot on goal that time. St. Thomas trying to reset things. Good job keeping it in. Riley Patfield lays the Thunder down on Kaylin Mumm near the blue line. Post trying to take over possession. Can't clear the defensive zone. Engler keeping it in. And a smart play to send it to the near side as Whitney Horton picks it up. Horton battling there. Lily Zoner's in there for Post. Maddie Noonan as well. Still battling for it, and Maya Engler comes away with it. Now Mumm with a tough angle shot, kicked away by Amundsen. Boy, Amundson's got to be feeling some of that pressure that Saunders was feeling during that second period. The shot gets deflected wide, that attempt around. Already almost 9 minutes gone here in the third. Mumm along the far corner, sends it back out to the blue line for Maxwell. Into the far circle. That's Kuhlenkamp, back for Mumm. Into the slot it goes, backhand opportunity, and Horton, believe that one had to get saved by Amundsen as well. Wasn't the strongest shot, but a sneaky one from Whitney Horton that time. Now Maya Engler with it. She takes the long shot. That one saved more easily from Amundsen. Still, Post not able to get possession in their defensive zone. What a tremendous shift this is from St. Thomas as finally it deflects up into the ceiling. And that's how Post is going to be able to get some fresh legs out there on the ice. Boy, I want to know the shift numbers on that last play because it must have been 2 to 3 minutes in the offensive zone consecutively for St. Thomas. And there's nothing that a coach and Bethany Browson likes more than long shifts in the offensive zone. Fresh five out there for the Eagles. Jody Rose wins the faceoff for Post. But Jet Devlin couldn't quite clear the zone. It's tipped high into the air, back behind the net of Devin Amundsen. Into that far corner it goes. Devlin once again couldn't quite handle it cleanly, and St. Thomas trying to take over possession. Battle for it in the far corner. Sadie Lindsay comes away, trying to dance around Jet Devlin. Was able to get it to her teammate Kira Parker, but once again, Post kind of waking up here in this third period defensively and really getting some good bodies on the outside possessions. Hyatt sends it for Hain. Hain takes the shot, and it's blockered aside by Minotti. Post still with possession as Camera tried the tough angle long shot, deflected a couple of times into the far corner, and Devlin sends it around the boards. Emma Hine has it. Hine just trying to keep it in, send it to a little bank pass to herself, but it gets intercepted by Gosdick, and here come the Tommies. Nora Sauer into the offensive zone with a beautiful one-time setup, but Parker couldn't finish it as Amundsen makes the save. Boy, Amundsen with a Saunders-like save sliding through the crease. We've seen her make those in the second period, and Amundsen looking alive here in the third. I believe she got a glove on that latest attempt as well. Hyatt with the puck, battling against Housey, trying to clear the defensive zone, and she does. Skoogman picks it up, trying to re-enter right away. On goal it goes to Amundsen, who kicks it into the corner. Cameron finds Hine, and 9:35 left to go in this third period of play. What has been a more competitive third period between these two teams, as there's a big collision between Housey and Hine. Two veterans on each side showing their physical presence. And both defenders back up to their feet as Hine skates to the bench, but Housey remains in the game. 9:13 left in this third period. Puck goes all the way down the ice, but no icing called, as they say that St. Thomas tipped it on the way down. And now the Tommies looking to break out. Post looking to apply some forecheck, now onto the back check. Timmy Grom picks it up for the Eagles, tries to send it to Tristan Curry, who does the smart play and just sends it in deep. Racing around, Selena Mikavicus couldn't quite get there. Almost kept in by Ruby Mitchell. Instead, Post will have to reset. Dump and chase go the Eagles. Kaylin Mumm picks it up for the Tommies. They make their way out of their defensive zone, but once again, that neutralized defense, that forecheck for Post, really starting to come alive here in the third, and that's the momentum that you wanted. Even if it's not a goal, you want to see some tougher defense from the Eagles, knowing that this is another matchup tomorrow. It's going to be very tough. When I was talking with Brandon Brown earlier in this week, he mentioned the word identity a lot, wanting to establish the identity, especially with two of their top goal scorers of last year leaving. He wanted this team to be a tough, physical, hard-to-play against team. And you're really starting to see that here in this third period with less chances for St. Thomas, although there's a good opportunity, but Barine just missed the net. Good to see Chloe Barine back out on the ice as a penalty is going to get called. Barine gets handled into the boards. It's going to be a cross-checking penalty, and Peyton Tully, with no arguments, knew it right away. Be the fourth power play of the game for St. Thomas. They're 1 for 3 so far. Remember, Barine earlier in this game was slow to get off the ice, was a little shaken up after a tough collision. She got back on the ice, and once again she looks a little bit shaken up, getting back towards the bench. Be a cross-checking penalty on Peyton Tully, the true freshman for Post University. And it's actually going to take us to our media timeout. So before the power play, we'll have a little commercial break. It's 6-0 St. Thomas here on Post University Women's Hockey. A good crowd here at the Sports Center of Connecticut, looking to cheer on their Post Eagles for somewhat of a moral victory here in this third period of play. Now on the penalty kill for the fourth time today. 2-minute minor assessed to Peyton Tully for cross-checking into the board. So for the Eagles, it's Rose, as well as Zoner, McCavicus, and Karis Kale, the penalty-killing group. Meanwhile, it's Ella Housey with the puck, gives it over to Kaylin Mumm on the far side. Back to Housey, now at the near side. A little tic-tac-toe and good puck movement with the woman advantage. There's a backhanded shot on goal. Ilsa Lindenman with the shot attempt, and Devin Amundsen says no. Lindenman once again sets it up for Bartz, but that shot got blocked by Zoner. Wraparound try, and Amundsen got her skate on it a couple of times. Bartz couldn't quite handle that pass. It trickles back out to the blue line, and Housey skates forward. Back behind the netting, a beautiful setup that time. Backhanded pass, the rebound is loose. It just goes wide of the net, and another shot attempt goes wide of the net. Madison Brown with that latest attempt for St. Thomas, as they still have possession here with the woman advantage. Kaylin Mumm at the top of the crease. Now drifting towards the slot, tries to send it to the far end. Pass got deflected. Jody Rose picks it up and is finally able to clear the defensive zone, but St. Thomas able to gather it at neutral ice, and Ella Housey takes it back in. Housey looking towards the center of the ice, gets deflected, the wraparound try, Boyan Amundsen with a tremendous save. The net gets dislodged, we're going to have a stoppage of play, but Devin Amundsen sliding and stopping the wraparound try that looked like it was guaranteed to make it 7-0. 7:04 left to go in this third period of play, 49 seconds with the woman advantage, and Amundsen getting a few love taps from her teammates. Offensive zone faceoff for the Tommies. They lose it, and Lily Zoner is able to clear it down the ice. Boy, shout out to the referee, able to matrix his way out of that flying puck. And St. Thomas will reset for one or two last pushes on their power play should they need it. Kira Parker along the near side. Gets handled by Lily Zoner. Once again, Zoner has really impressed defensively today, especially as a freshman playing in her first collegiate game. Off to the near boards, Josie Skoogman. Now to the far end, that's Maxwell. Sends it in deep for Lindsay. Boy, beautiful puck movement, and they score! Kira Parker tallies another one, and it's 7-0 St. Thomas. For Kira Parker, her first points today, and the Tommies continue to pour it on here in the third. Parker, the junior out of Winnipeg, tallied 14 points last year, 5 of them goals. already picks up her first so far this season. And boy, a flurry of scoring. 7 goals for St. Thomas by 6 different players. What has been a blowout game in favor of the visitors here. They're continuing to just add on here in the third and trying to not let Post get any momentum heading into tomorrow's matchup, as this looks to be another breakaway. Callie Rice getting harassed by Kuhlenkamp, and that was a beautiful save from Devin Amundsen on the one-on-one breakaway. And it was Tallulah Cameron who was harassing Callie Rice defensively that time around. And Amundsen just gave up that goal, but she has looked particularly strong here in this third period, replacing Saunders. Offensive win in the faceoff for St. Thomas. Goes back out to Janessa Gosdick, finds Rice. Back to Gosdick near the blue line, finds her sister. Juliana takes the shot, sticked aside easily by Devin Amundsen. Battle for it along the near boards. Whitney Horton in there for St. Thomas, as well as Juliana Gosdick. Meanwhile, it's Riley Patfield for the Eagles. It's also Emma Hine battling, but it looks like St. Thomas is going to come away with it. Only temporarily. Hine does have it on her stick now, leaving the defensive zone, drifting through neutralized, but going 2-on-3, and smartly just sends it in deep into her offensive end of things. That's Hine, a defenseman, leading the offensive charge for the Eagles, and a new Eagle at that. Post trying to go heavy on the forecheck, not allow the puck to leave the zone, but eventually it does, and Rice picks it up. Rice with the long shot right into the chest of Amundsen, easily makes the save, and freezes ice with 5:04 left to go here in this third. Talk about an offensive output today for St. Thomas University. I mean, this is not a team that's necessarily known for its goal scoring. They averaged two goals a game last year. That was good for 7th in the WCHA, but so far 7 to open up this season. Looking to add on is Ella Housey, sending it in deep. McCavicus finds her teammate Ruby Mitchell, looking to break out. Mitchell gets handled. Good play by Ella Berger along the near boards, but St. Thomas ruled offsides, and we'll have a neutral zone faceoff. Always interesting to see some cross-conference matchups too. Newha being a relatively new conference, Post being a relatively new Division I team. It's a really good opportunity when you're playing the WCHA, just as a bit of a litmus test to see where you are. WCHA, been the top conference in Division I women's hockey for a number of years now. They've won 8 national championships in a row. Actually, 6 national championships in a row, and they've won 8 out of the last 10 has the WCHA. Some pretty unreal numbers. Of course, St. Thomas doesn't have the best record in WCHA play as of late, but looking to change that this year. There's a lot to be excited about over in the state of hockey, and maybe not only in St. Thomas, but you think about some of the other Minnesota programs this year. Minnesota Duluth, of course, the University of Minnesota. Got Minnesota State as well, all top-tier contenders this year across Division I. Meanwhile, 4 minutes to go here in this final period. Jody Rose tries to collect the puck in her offensive zone for Post, but instead it goes to Josie Skugman. And St. Thomas doing the smart play, just tipping it way forward and out, not icing, as Callie Peterson picks it up in her defensive end. Peterson loses the handle, going to have to reset things, but getting harassed by Riley Bartz on the back check, finally able to just give it off to Tully, and Tully turns it over in their own defensive end. Bartz forced the turnover defensively. Kale couldn't quite clean it up, and now the other way, it's Ilsa Lindemann. Finds Riley Bartz, looking for the hat trick, but Bartz couldn't get the shot off there. Nice defensive play by Callie Peterson. Karis Kale handles the rebound along the near boards, trying to find anybody to pass it to, but Madison Brown just getting in the way along these near boards, and Amundsen trickles it back behind her net. 3 minutes to go here in this period, as it was almost beautifully set up for Riley Bartz, but Bartz just couldn't quite get it on net. Still with possession in the offensive zone is St. Thomas as Mum shoots one. Boy, a screen shot, and Amundsen was able to find it through the screen there, and then the rebound opportunity was handled, and this looks like it's going to be an icing, and it will be. 2:49 left in this third period. Post just trying to get to the end of the game and survive. Meanwhile, St. Thomas trying to have some more fun, see if they can add on to one of their top scoring games I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't know if it's their top scoring game in history, but one of their top scoring games in history. Defensive zone win for the Eagles that time, but as they have all night, having a tough time clearing their own defensive zone, the forecheck for St. Thomas has been unreal. 2:30 left in this final period, and the Tommies just resetting in their own defensive end. Maxwell with the long up-ice pass, trying to find Kira Parker. Left it a little bit too long, but Parker ends up collecting it in that near corner. Good defensive play that time. Emma Hine battling her to the ground, and Jody Rose picks up the loose puck. Hine has it on her stick once again. Tries the bank pass to herself. Doesn't quite work out. I believe that was Juliana Gosdick getting in the way of that one defensively. And Jet Devlin picks up the loose puck. Past the red line, looking to get past the blue line. Couldn't quite do it, and the Eagles looking to reset. Boy, a hard hit into the boards that time around. Tim Marie Grom got handled by Nora Sauer. Maybe a little bit of message sending into tomorrow's game as well. Hine just chips it back in deep. Little dump and chase action as Minotti handles it behind her own net. Puck does clear the defensive zone as St. Thomas, but Post still with possession. Devlin banks it, looking to go past the blue line, couldn't handle it. Now this is Tegan Kuhlenkamp drifting through neutral ice. 1:30 left to go in this game. It'll be interesting to see what the goalie matchup is tomorrow as well. Of course, Danny Strom didn't dress today. She got the primary amount of starts last year, but you expect with the graduate transfer in Julia Minotti this year, who played really well for Clarkson a season ago, you expect her to get the majority of them this season. Though a long day today, we'll see if it'll be Minotti versus Saunders again, or if Amundsen will get the start. Under a minute here to go in this third period. St. Thomas still with possession of the puck. And Maddie Noonan trying to garner something here. Drifting through neutral ice, looking to find Lily Zoner, and Zoner does pick it up in her offensive zone. Less than 40 seconds to go in the period. Noonan just going to send it around the boards over into the far corner, but no Eagle is there to pick it up. Instead, it's going to go St. Thomas's way. Whitney Horton just sends it in deep. Lily Zoner is going to collect it. And there are a few positives to take away in this game for Post. I would say Devin Amundsen has been one here in this third period. Lily Zoner has been one, as well as Kai Hyatt, so a couple of standout freshmen. The third period in general, a lot better than the first two, I think I would say. But overall in this game, talk about a dominant victory. It's St. Thomas coming into Shelton, Connecticut, and shutting out the Eagles on the road 7-0 to pick up their first win of the season. What a win for St. Thomas and company here on the road. And what a win for Julia Minotti in her first start as a St. Thomas Tommy and her first start in the WCHA, collecting the shutout here on the road in Shelton. The goals today, and there were a lot of them for St. Thomas. It started back in the first with Riley Bartz. Then Kara Sajovic followed it up in the second and just continued pouring on from there in the second period. Bartz, Housey, Barine, Lindemann all scored in the second to make it 6-0 by the time 40 minutes was up. And finally in the third on the power play, the second power play goal of the day for St. Thomas. It was Kira Parker tallying her first point of the season to finish it off, and allowed it to be a 7-0 victory in favor of the visitors. Total team stats in this game today, boy, 56 shots on goal for St. Thomas as opposed to just 5 throughout the game for Post University. Meanwhile, 90 shots total, 18 for the Eagles. 2 for 4 go the Tommies on the power play. Boy, that was such a big note for them heading into this season. And if you're Bethany Browson and crew, you have to feel really good about handling 50% on the power play here today. Meanwhile, 0 for 3 for the Eagles. Penalty-wise, there were 4 of them on Post, 3 of them on St. Thomas. Boy, another dominant face-off day for St. Thomas, 48-14. And overall, just a really good win for the visitors. But the series is not over. We'll have Game 2 of this matchup here tomorrow at noon Eastern. That'll be 11 a.m. Central if you're over in the great state of hockey. But until then, for our production members, Michael Vesci and Jarrett Michaels and everybody else here at Post University, I'm Max Stapleton saying thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.